So, Idan, I wonder if you wouldn't mind just kicking off and sharing with us maybe some of the challenges that organizations face in building a digital culture, be it from scratch or trying to change culture.
Yeah, sure. So thank you very much. Thanks for having me. It's a great pleasure to be on here. Yeah, like you said, we are one of the few cheeky little fintechs trying to come into the market and kind of disrupt things. I don't really like to use the word disrupt, but that's essentially what we're trying to do. So yeah, I mean, the challenges, what happened with us, we off the bat, I mean, we launched in June 2018, and off the bat, we went completely digital. I mean, we didn't have any foot soldiers on the ground. We didn't have any sales agents. Our channel acquisition, underwriting, disbursement, our whole ecosystem was done digitally, and we wanted to really drive that. We wanted to make sure that guys can come onto our platform, apply, get feedback, get statements, everything through a digital channel and through the palm of their hands through a cell phone. So I mean, with us, we kind of had that ingrained in our culture at the beginning. I think one of our biggest difficulties was kind of like customer adoption. People didn't really like to use this new digital channel that we created because it was something new, it was something groundbreaking, and something that they weren't used to. I mean, speaking to having some banks as a fellow panelist, I mean, people are used to, for centuries, doing things through the banks. Only through the improvements and uplifting of technology have fintechs such as Fundrr come on board and kind of started digitizing the whole product offering that banks have been doing for centuries before very well. I mean, I'm a big fan of the banks, but they do have kind of their own ways, things set in their own ways, So one of our biggest challenges was customer adoption. Really every time someone would complete an application in our early days, they used to phone us to make sure that we received the application. They wanted to phone us to follow up on the application, even though if they had to log back onto our platform, we would give them a full 360 overview and a timeline of what's happening in the application. So that was for us one of the biggest things. And I think COVID has kind of leapfrogged this thing where it kind of forced a lot of people to adopt technology and adopt a new digital environment, because you can't meet face to face these days. So, I mean, we've seen a huge uptick and uplift in digital adoption onto our platform. And I guess also one of the biggest problems that we were facing is like resources in South Africa, like IT resources, like strong developers, guys that are really good at building these platforms. I mean, it feels like all of us, like tech startups, just kind of eat everyone's lunch and steal everyone's resources, which is really, it's not ideal. So we always kind of, every time I speak to like my nephews and stuff like that, I just tell them to go into the digital world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I guess one of the nice things about a fintech is you don't sit with the same levels of technical debt, which are kind of the legacy that you've grown up with. At the same time, don't necessarily have the tried and tested and sophisticated processes to manage those customer relationships and to help hold customers' hands through the digital adoption journey. I'm sure that was quite an interesting situation for you guys.
Exactly, 100%. So it has its negatives and it has its positives, right? I mean, being a small fintech startup, I mean, we've had a lot of the advantages of being agile and testing new technology in the market and not kind of having our existing client base adopting to something new, but rather onboarding clients to have something as this is our product, this is how you use it, kind of more education rather than adoption. But yeah, at the end of the day, you can certainly see how the banks, they've got certainly the balance sheet, all infrastructure, customers, they have everything, but it is hard. It is hard when you have this big customer base that have been doing things in a certain way for so long. To now drive change and adoption is way harder. I completely agree.
Idan, I mean, unfortunately, Yasser, who's meant to be arguing this case from the bank perspective, is clearly having some technical issues. So I wonder if I could ask you a favor, if you could maybe just tell us very, very briefly a little bit more about Fundrr, because I have a couple of questions, but I think there's some good. It's good to have some context in terms of what you guys do.
Sure, of course. So yeah, we founded Fundrr in June 2018. Sole purpose is to provide unsecured and unrestricted debt funding into small businesses. I mean, small businesses in South Africa are the backbone of the economy. You know, they employ more than 60% of the workforce. They contribute over 40% to the GDP. There was a recent study that was done by Fundrr. They said that there's a funding gap of over 390 billion rand in South African businesses, and that is businesses that are actively out there in the market seeking funding. There, Yasser joined us.
Yeah, hi, Yasser.
So we found a huge funding gap in the market, that obviously businesses are out there seeking funding and are either getting underserved or not getting served by the banks. And it's simply due to the reasons of qualifying criteria. You know, the businesses just do not have the right financial literacy and information that the banks require. They haven't been operating for long enough. They don't have the track record. They don't have the assets on their balance sheet to justify the debt that the banks would give them. So we kind of wanted to flip everything on its head and kind of start looking at credit in a different way, in an alternative way. Start look at alternative data to allow us to get a more holistic view of the business, and obviously leveraging heavily on technology to make sure we have a quick turnaround time. So we have plus minus 24-hour from application to disbursement of funds, and that is through our organic channel. We also white labeled our technology, and we leveraging off strategic partnerships where we leverage data and use our technology and balance sheet to fund the business, which then we can have a solution that can be implemented in 30 seconds. So a client gets an application to disbursement of fund in 30 seconds. So we're really trying to leverage technology and alternative data to provide quicker and more holistic funding to small businesses in South Africa.
Brilliant. So we've been hearing from the fintech side, yes, and we're hoping that that you can sort of carry the torch for the more formal sort of banking sector in terms of what kind of changes culturally do banks need to make?
Unfortunately, I have to confess first, I have to admit that it is not easy to compete with the Idan, I mean here with the fintech, because it is not easy. In the fintech industry, they can change the culture easily, but unfortunately inside the banks, we cannot do this at ease. I can share with you right now two scenarios or two cases. I've been already involved in these two cases. One for a bank, as I inaugurated the first digital bank 2011, from 2011 to 2015 in the Middle East, in GCC, to be more particular, in Bahrain and Saudi. It was so easy for us to change the culture inside the bank to integrate digital bank from scratch. It's easier. It's easier for everyone inside the bank, because you are, if I can say, you can plant the idea, you can plant the atmosphere, you can change the culture inside everyone in the bank, and you can detoxify everyone in the bank if you are building this from scratch. And it was too easy for us because we were working in casual. We were talking all the time about digital. We were talking all the time about transformation and which kind of digital bank we are looking for. But right now, I'm working right now in Egypt as a head of digital banking in a kind of a semi-governmental bank with some obsolete governmental policy and procedures. It is not easy at all. It is not easy at all to go to someone and telling him to change his mindset, to change his culture in order to go with new digital bank. This new digital bank is great, and we are going to have great customer experience for our customers. But always the feedbacks coming from my colleagues, especially in some departments, I can name the people in compliance, the people in information security. No, Yasser, this is not easy at all to do this. We have regulation from the central bank. Even if the regulation from the central bank is being easy right now, and the central bank is trying to ease the regulation, but my colleague in some departments refuse or resist this culture change, unfortunately. But this is the role of the people who lead the digital transformation. They have to work on the technology with the people and policies and procedures in the same time.
I completely feel your pain. Yes, I know, and I've experienced similar transformation efforts. I think that it was really interesting. Earlier this morning, one of our speakers, Sergio, spoke about the digital transformation journey being only 20% technology and 80% people. Because it's not a case of just, building it and they will come. You've got to take your organization along the journey with you, and you've got to take your customers along the journey with you. And those two need to sort of work together really efficiently. Where do you think the best place is for companies to start that journey? It's a challenging journey, but with your experience, where do you think the best place?
This is for me, correct?
Yeah, for both of you. I think Idan's got a slightly different view of the world.
Okay. To be honest, yes. The last step in the digital transformation is the technology. We believe in this. Even we are working in the bank. I'm leading a kind of digital transformation project right now with the CIO and the head of PMO. I'm leading the kind of digital transformation from business perspective. The first thing we have decided in this project, in order to have a very successful and effective transformation, we have decided, three of us, we have decided to start on the analysis sessions. But before the analysis session, we provided training sessions for our colleagues. It was very important to have like 2 months training sessions, 2 months from the lifetime of this project. The lifetime of the project, it's about 30 months. We got about 2 months of the project in order to train the people. The training here wasn't a kind of training to train them for the technology or what we are going to use or what we are going to... No. It was kind of, guys, this is awareness. This is the digital transformation project. This is the basic skills you have to have in order to pave the route for the digital transformation. It was great initiative, by the way, with significant results. As everyone, I remember here, Louisa and Idan, that someone came to me and he told me, guys, are you willing to do this? This is only for training or something to notice, or you are planning this to have it one day? And I said, guys, this is to have it within like 12 or 18 months from now. We are doing this. But guys, this is great. We cannot live without that. I don't understand how we are living without it. I need this. I need this customer journey. I need this. So I was too happy. And when I went to the CIO and I told him, this is great thing what we are doing right now. And the CEO was happy. And she told us, it was a brilliant idea that you have started with the training. And after the training, the analysis session. The analysis sessions come after the training, because we got all the required information about the painful procedures, the painful and kind of obsolete processes from the people. They are working, they are suffering from such processes. They told us all the painful, they pointed at all the pains inside their daily routines, and we were happy to listen that. And right now we are in advanced phase to treat with such pain in order to eliminate or to be able to mitigate at least.
It's a huge challenge. And Idan, I'm going to turn this back to you and say you have a different type of challenge, because you've got sort of coders and developers and a really sort of innovative business model that you've sort of brought into the industry, and you've found a a gap and a need that you are servicing really, really well. But your challenge is really to make sure that you are compliant in a highly regulated industry, that you are able to put those structures and controls in place that ensure that you can remain in business. Is that has that been a challenge for you guys from a cultural perspective, or is it like all systems go and let's just do this thing, ask for forgiveness later?
No, so at the beginning, it's something that I'm sure everyone on this call and everyone listening can kind of relate to. If you're in financial services, it's very, like you said, regulated, and as soon as you start asking for such personal information and you're dealing with money and really sensitive information, people are really they really tend to be hesitant of trying new things, and me included. I think even the younger generation coming in, very way more adaptive of new technologies and new products out there. But still, at the end of the day, if it's a really sensitive product, which usually financial services are, then people do get to be a bit skeptical. So the path that we chose is that we wanted to do everything above board, to do everything compliant with all the body regulators. For us, the protection of private information is for us is it's number one on our criteria. People are sharing with us, and especially just to give you a little bit of an idea on our onboarding process. We don't ask for a single document upload because everything is done through API calls and integration. So they don't even have to provide us with bank statements. They just have to link their bank account through our platform by providing us with their username and password of the online banking. Now, for a person to think that they would share such sensitive information with this startup that isn't compliant, that isn't regulated, that doesn't belong to the necessary bodies that kind of give it the accreditation, then no one would follow that user experience, and then we would have a huge amount of drop-offs. If you see on our website, our testimonials is something that we're driving the most, because we want to show people that this is safe, this is secure, this is how we do it. People have used it and everything's okay. And just trust us and let us show you how much easier the journey can be, through leveraging of technology. So, that was at the core of our culture, to make sure everything is done by the book, above board, transparency, and being part of all the regulatory bodies.
I guess the important thing, be you a fintech or a traditional bank, is finding the right balance between technology and humanity, because essentially we are dealing, as you say, Idan, with people's lives, their livelihoods, and there's this trust factor that is absolutely critical. And sometimes, throwing technology at the problem isn't necessarily going to give that sense of trust, and sometimes it does. So I guess we if you were to sort of conclude this conversation with just those key things that you think really can help any organization, fintech or bank, to build an effective and a genuine digital culture that really does have an impact on the markets that you serve, what would those key pointers be that you'd want to give your market? Yasser, I wonder if you could kick off on that.
Before answering this, because you have mentioned that you have to humanitize the service in addition to provide the technology and the digital, I have to add, it is not only something inside the bank. We have to talk about the customers here. And this is answering your question. In order to understand the customers, especially in a country like Egypt, I'm talking about my country right now, I'm talking about the people. I have to give you some information. It could be surprisingly provided for you for the first time, but we are about in Egypt 100 million population. Only 13% of the Egyptians are banked. We have about 13 million banked people, and we have like unbanked 70 million people. If we are talking about the 70, let's say that the eligible of them about 50 million, 45 million people are eligible, but they are unbanked. Here we shouldn't talk about the digital or the human intervention or the customer intervention or what we are providing from the customers. No, we have to here discuss the idea of the financial inclusion and which steps or which initiatives the banks here in Egypt are providing for their customers to open accounts. Unfortunately, if we have something like a helicopter view and we are looking at the people and what they are doing, when I speak to some friends, they don't work with banks at all, especially the people, they are working in some SMEs and some informal business. They cannot find a bank which is providing a tailored service for these customers. We are a banks. We are about 37 banks in Egypt. We are fighting all together in a battle of the same cake of the 13 million or 15 million population. They are working already with the banks without providing them a unique service, without providing them tailored service. Here, I'm not talking about the human service or even the digital service. I'm talking about the banking service. There is a problem that we are all thinking all the time about the bank as a bank. We are thinking all the time as bankers, and we don't put ourselves into the customer's shoes. And this is a great problem. When we have a meeting in a daily meetings inside the bank, we are talking about the process, we are talking about the regulation, but never spoke about the customers and what the customer can do and which is better for the customer. Last week, I had a meeting with the CEO of a consumer finance company. It's a consumer finance company. It's something like a fintech company. When I was talking to him, he said, I have everything in my company and I'd like to provide the customer with digital services. What should I do? I told him that you have the heavy work already done. You have the customer base, clientele base, you have the products, you have everything, but you don't have a mobile-based application. Here, your customer doesn't want to go to the bank. In the same time, it's easy to be hunted or to be captured or to be attracted or acquired by your company and by your salespeople in your company, but you need a tool. You need a mobile-based application. This mobile-based application to provide 99% of the consumer finance you are already providing. Since you are competing the bank, try to compete with the way that the customer prefers. And here is the issue. Don't go to the customers because you as a banker prefer, or even because you as a fintech company prefer, but you have to put the customer in the center. You have to put the customer's preference as a big priority, and then you have to interact. You shouldn't provide your services and procedures and every product you have for the customers and wait for the customer to interact with you. No, it's vice versa. You have to wait and you have to discuss it with the customer. You have to see what the customer is looking for and you have to interact with him. Right now, the first point every customer needs is to have his banking or financial services in his pocket, and with only a fingertip, he can conduct all kind of his transactions. And this is what we all should work on.
I mean, I have been into Egypt, and it's an amazing country with unbelievable potential. But clearly, in a lot of ways, at the very beginning of the journey of really digitizing a lot of these traditional systems.
There is a huge change right now, Louisa, and I have to admit that this is weird for me because it's different or a unique experience compared to any country. In any country, you can find a lot of banks trying to change, trying to innovate, but they face the regulations of the central bank or the mindset of the central bank. Here in Egypt, on the contrary, no. The central bank is pulling the train. This is truly, they are providing regulations, they ease the regulation, and they are begging the banks to change their products and service and try to digitize. But unfortunately, the banks are involved in the daily routine. But right now, there is a huge and significant change that the biggest banks in Egypt, which are governmental banks, two of them, are building a unique digital bank from scratch, with different entity, with different name, with different customer experience and customer journey, and they are about to go live maybe within 6 months from now. So I think after the go live of this kind of real digital bank, the revolution will be happening in Egypt very soon, but not this kind of the revolution you heard about.
Absolutely, very exciting times, Yasser, and I think that the opportunities, as I say, are enormous, and certainly the opportunities for partnerships between the fintechs and the traditional banks can lead to really huge market inroads and really creating the financial inclusion that's so needed in your amazing country. It's been a fascinating conversation. Sorry about the technical issues. I just want to thank you, Idan and Yasser, for sharing your insights, for sharing your different experiences. I think the big sort of takeout for me is that this is culture is complicated. I mean, technology is complicated, but culture is really complicated. And I think it's a journey that we all need to travel. Doesn't matter whether you're a startup, a fintech, or whether you are an old established incumbent bank. It is a challenge that faces us all. So a huge thank you for your time, for sharing your stories with us, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's nice to meet both of you.